Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Fuzzy, Turtle, welcome, welcome. Morning, Waffle. Morning, Uchu. Good morning, Brandon. Morning, Oyman. Welcome. All right, we're going to do that one. Okay. Let's see here. Good morning, Yang. Good morning, Giovanni. Fuzzy, you can. I'll just say in the future, you can always message me. I do have a line going right now, so I promise to get to you by at least 1:40 p.m. If you're okay with that. Good morning, Chef. Apparently, Clang Tidy hates my else if statement. Yep, it will do that. It will do that. Cade, good morning. So when are we getting a Super Mario 64 stream? I will stream Super Mario Sunshine instead. That's my game of choice. Okay, so it's 11:30 here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to talk about is the test. I told you I would do that. So if you want to ask questions about that, now's the time. The test will be next Thursday. So you guys can't see my calendar, but that will be October 7th, okay? I'll try to post a little announcement. I will post... write that down. I will post a review. I'm one of these guys. I'm one of these instructors that does reviews. As for the in-class portion of it, we'll see. Just because we're a little bit behind. We've been keeping up. Meaning, like, we haven't made any ground, but we haven't fallen behind anymore. So, I'll just see. I'll kind of plan out the rest of our semester this weekend, and I'll see if we can take Tuesday to do full review or maybe just partial review. But I will give you a review sheet and review answers. So you'll have a little study guide for that. Chef says multiple choice or written responses mostly. It's everything. You will write small snippets of code. You will write short answers. You will do multiple choice questions. You will do multiple selection questions where you check more than one box. And the last question is a full program. Now, it's not like this musical chairs program, but it is a program. I usually have them about 30 questions. Depending on the difficulty of the questions, it might be a little less, like 24. Or it might be a little bit more, 32, 36. They usually range in there. The test will be curved if needed. All right. In the past, just so you know, I'm speaking from experience. The first test usually goes by smoothly. The second test, not so smoothly. So I'll be working on the second test. But just so you know, I will curve it if it looks like we're struggling with some stuff in class. Uchu says assignment 5 won't be next week then. I might upload it, but I'm not going to make it due before the exam. I'll give you plenty of time, I assure you. Waffle, I swear, all of the questions that I ask and everything that I teach, I swear I say it in class. So if you want to watch the past streams, for sure. I usually tell you if there's test questions popping up. I would say the best thing you could do is allocate time to do the study guide. All right, so when I post that study guide, hopefully tomorrow, you will at least do that, okay? Now, the way the test works is you are required to have lockdown browser. I don't do webcams, all right? But that lockdown browser is there to prevent you from, like, copy-pasting your code. For example, I'll ask you, like, what is the output of this code, perhaps? And I don't want you to just be able to copy-paste it into a, terminal and then run it on your computer. So that's why we do the lockdown browser. No webcams. There will be no webcams. But the truth is, you can have your notes, right? I can't stop you from using them, but because it is kind of an open note test, it won't be super easy, meaning that you should definitely try to complete every question before you start looking through your notes. Chef says for our coding parts, so you're going to have to write it into Canvas. Yeah. I'll see what I can do about the final one. The small coding questions will be easy, just to kind of put in that little essay box. But I'll see if I can, for that final coding question, I'll see if I can give you like a full text editor. In fact, I think Lockdown Browser comes with a text editor. I think yours comes with the text editor. So maybe just use that. Is yours different than the other instructors? I guess I don't I don't know if that's an important question. I will review it, that is. So we do collaborate on that, but I won't give you a question that you don't know. I promise you I'll review the test. You won't get a problem that's like I never learned this. I'll want to throw in the Mr. P term, right? So none of the other sections will have the Mr. P term. But I promise you, the test, you'll be able to do it if you pay attention. I know there may have been some nightmare with that in the past. Turbo says, how long? The time of the class. If I have any DRC students, I haven't received any notifications. So if you think you're a DRC student, please get that email to me ASAP. So, yeah. Are there any other questions? I'll just kind of briefly repeat it. It's next Thursday, the test. It's during class time. I will release it 5 minutes before class starts, and I will end it as class ends. So you'll get a little bit extra time to do it, 5 extra minutes for you early birds. So hour and 20 minutes to do it. Lockdown browser. I'll put up a test. I'll put up a test exam, okay? I will put up a test exam. Just, type in your name so you can verify that your lockdown browser works. All right. The test, you'll be able to do it. I'm gonna go through it, and I'm gonna make sure all of the questions on there are something we talked about. And if you don't think we talked about it, then I will point out the exact YouTube video where I did talk about it. So, you better trust me on this one, okay? I assure you, you can do this test. Review will go up tomorrow or Saturday. Please allocate some time to do that. I will give you the answers. Perhaps next Tuesday we will do a review in class, depending on how much time we have. Okay? Is there a place to download Lockdown Browser? Turbo, yes, there is. I'll see after class if I remember. You can send me a message maybe to remind me. I can find that link for you. Or you can use that. Thank you. So Hama says, can you contact me through Discord if you have questions? I will be on Discord. Now, I will allow you to ask me questions, but your question, I'm not going to help you with the, I'm not going to help you answer it. If there's some confusion, you may, you know, if you're confused on like, say, hey, can I answer it this way? I'll give you a yes or no, sure. If you want to take the time to do that. But I'm going to try to make that test as straightforward as possible so you don't have to message me. Now, I'll say if there's in the rare case that there's a problem on there that you're like, what is this? Or you think it's unfair, please just make a note of it and let me know after class. And we'll talk about it then to see if, you know, if there was a typo in the test or something. I'm pretty good at reviewing them, but if you do find one of those, please make a note of it and don't take any more of your time to like let me know that problem sucks. Please wait until after class and I'll review it then. Okay. But yeah, once again, to answer your question, if you are confused on a question, I will give you a yes or no. But I won't be like, here's a hint. Think memory leak or something. I'm not going to do that. It's going to be completely up to you to come up with your own answer. So, are there any more questions about the test? You guys understand when it is, what's going on, what you need? Okay. Also, I'll say one more thing. I give partial points for everything. So even if your program doesn't compile, I will make a little rubric and you'll get at least partial points. I will not send you subliminal messages over Discord for the right answer. Also, no copy pasting, please. If it's from the notes, you can quote it and you can quote me. If you copy paste something from Geeks for Geeks or something, I will report you to what is it called? Student. I can't think about it right now. I will report you to those people who deal with academic misconduct, okay? I'll report you there. So do not copy paste. If you are going to do something from the notes, you can like quote me on it, okay? Do you need to write comments? No. You will be a little bit crammed. The test is a little speedy, meaning you're not gonna want to spend too much time on each question. So no, you don't have to write comments. The program will be straightforward enough that like, you know, you're not gonna have to rotate people around a chair, but you will have to prove that you know how to like allocate a pointer, do the dot operator, dereference, stuff like that. Okay. So if there's any more questions, let me know. We're going to get started today on our last day of pointers. We're talking about arrays today. And welcome to the most fun part of the entire semester. Okay? The test will cover up to pointers. It's these first four things that we talked about. It's going to be classes, inheritance, and composition, function overloading, and pointers. Okay? So four-ish things. Function overloading, classes, inheritance, and pointers. So last class, we talked about, we did this object. We spent the whole time doing this, really. Today is the last day for exam content. Tuesday, we may, like I said, depending on our time, we may start something else. But whatever we do on Tuesday will not be on the test. So everything after today is free game for the test, but that's it. So last class we talked about objects, right? And this probably helped a lot of you with the assignment. Really, the only thing we needed to talk about was when you call new, I guess I'll put these here in the notes because that's probably a good idea. When you call new, the constructor can be called for an object. It will be called, rather. A constructor will be called for the object. Okay, so when you call new, not only does it get the address from the operating system, but it also will call the constructor for that object. Okay, if it's an array, then multiple constructors. when you call delete, the destructor is automatically called. Okay? So that's similar to when you declare just a regular static runtime variable and when it goes out of scope. But since we're allocating the memory during runtime, this is when these things happen. Okay? Now, if you're going to store that object in a pointer, you can have members in it, right? Dot operator. So if you want to do that, you have to dereference it. You guys have been doing this, some of you told me, for 8 hours straight. So you guys should be pretty familiar with these operators by now. Okay. Then we also talked about this. All right. Next assignment, I think it'll be involved. The only thing I'm going to make you do on the test for this is answer this question. What is this? That's what I'll say on the test. I'll say, hey, what is this? And you say, this is a pointer to the object that the member function was called from. So let's see if you guys understand. Let's assume I have some object P2, and I say get ID. No, we'll just do, say, a compare function, P3. Now let's pretend I'm in the compare code somewhere. Compare player and P. Having a bad time here, folks. And assuming that I'm in this code somewhere and I reference this, of the two objects up above, who is this? Let's say I type this, ID. Who am I referencing? Of these two guys here. Let's see if I make it a little bigger. When I type this, who am I referencing? P2, right? That's it. So nice job, thank you. So that's how you answer that question. This is a pointer to the object that the function was called from. Okay. That's really all we talked about last class. So now we're going to move on today to arrays. There's not going to be a lot of notes for that, but I will include a small section. And we're just going to kind of talk about how arrays really work. Today we're going to develop our own string class. You guys have been using strings for ages by now, but now we're going to make our own because we're grown up and we can do it ourselves. So, as I said earlier this semester, when we talked about strings and we talked about vectors, how are things stored in the string class? Well, you're going to have a pointer in that string class. So we're going to make a class called CS202 string. Okay. That is going to be our object. Maybe I won't do this capitalization thing. That's going to be our type. And so in our private variables, we're going to maintain probably two things. What do you guys think they might be? I'm thinking here we're going to want two variables. And what do you think they're going to be? In addition to that, we're going to throw some constructors in there and a destructor. I like that, Chef. That's a good idea. We're going to need a length. Okay, we're going to need a length for that. Now, where's the string stored? That's my question. What is a string? Is another thing that can answer that question. So Giovanni says size. I'm going to kind of refer to this as length and size. But Jeff here says an array of characters, right? It's an array. It's an array of characters. So if we're going to do an array, you guys remember this. Let's say I say car X. And then somewhere in the code I do cout X. Can you guys generally answer what this prints out? Do you guys remember? What does that print out? Say I've got an array here. What does this print if I have something like that? It prints an address, right? It prints an address. And it does, yeah, the address of X0. So we're going to use a pointer for this, okay? Why? Well, this is a static array, meaning that this can only be size 3. When I say, you know what, I'm just going to make it huge. I'm going to make it 100. But then we're still limited. What if the string is over 100 characters long? So we need a dynamic array. We need a dynamic character array. And that's going to be using a pointer. All right, so we're going to have character string. That's what we're going to call it. Cool, huh? All right, so now let's get a whole bunch of stuff going on here. A whole bunch of stuff. We're going to want a default constructor. We're going to want a parameter constructor. This one will be fun. We'll leave it at that for now. We're going to make it a const too. Okay. So this is going to be what we call our default. I'm going to call this one the parameter constructor. And kind of next week and early this week, we'll start talking about some additional things we need. At some point, you're going to want what we call a copy constructor. Now, I'm going to try not to talk about that thing a little too much today. Maybe we will. But we need a copy constructor. Kind of getting ahead of myself here, but it's going to be a const cs202 string copy. All right, we call this the copy constructor. So we're going to just do these three constructors, okay? Now, so we call this one. Let's say I'm down here. I say my cs202 string s1. Someone tell me what gets called there. s2. cs202 string s3. So this is the default. What gets called here? What gets called on this bottom one here? It is a parameter, but what did I call it? What gets called down here? Is it the parameter constructor? Or is it the copy? Notice that this up here, what's the type of this parameter? Well, S1 is a string, and we're passing it. So it's going to grab the copy here. All right, the copy constructor. That's what we're doing. Now, this one's a little different. All right, this one's a little different. This is going to take a character array. Now, do you guys know? Well, you're going to learn this today. So, you've been able to initialize strings before by saying string s is equal to, say, Patty. Now, this, specifically, this is a literal, this is like a literal string. Now, C++ has to represent this in some way. So this is how C++ does it. The double quotes represent a null terminated character string. Meaning Patty will be represented like this. We have a character P, we have a character A, we have a character T, another character T, and then finally a character Y, but we're not done yet. Now, the reason that we're not done is because how do we know when to stop? That's the question. Here, basically, we're saying that this has some address. This array has some address. You say, hey, my character array starts at 0x005 or something. So then we ask ourselves, how long is it? We could just keep dereferencing all the way into the void. How long is our string? How do we tell it? Well, C++ does this fancy little thing where it appends a null character at the very end of it. And that tells us when to stop. The null character tells us when to stop. So this directly translates to a character array that's null terminated. All right? So up here, this is a character array, right? This and this are the same thing. This and this are the same thing. All right? This and this are the same thing. So if I'm going to do it like this, I'm going to say this is Patty. This calls our parameter constructor. Does that make sense? This calls the parameter constructor. And so probably from CS135, you've always known this to be a string. But remember that the string type is a class. It's a class that's been given to you. And this calls a parameter constructor. It does not call the copy constructor. So we're going to be dealing with all that stuff today. In addition to that, we're going to want to do a destructor. Now, what's the destructor really good for? Have you guys learned something from the assignment? What is the destructor really good for? This is like the reason destructors exist. Deallocating, yeah. Deallocating the pointer. Destructors are super good at deallocating this thing automatically. And setting to null pointer. If you are a professional, you'd set that thing to null pointer too. So guess what? The destructor is super good for that. It will automatically take care of our memory leaks for us. Thank you, destructor. Thank you for doing that. Okay? And now we're going to add a few extra things in here. We're going to keep it pretty simple, but I do want to do a concatenate. All right, we're going to do some member functions. Now, you guys know that I could say cout, say s plus s. Hammett says, can't you just put s in the paramcitor? Yes, I can. I can do that. But I have to use double quotes. If I do single quotes, I'm gonna need. Let's say I do single quotes. What kind of constructor do I need for a single quote? Let's say I do S4 and I say S. What kind of constructor do I need for that? Just a car, right? We just need a car. All right. So roughly this one here. This one takes care of the singles, and this takes care of the doubles for us. Does that answer your question? Now, back to this concatenate thing. Mail says, a car pointer equals a string, and a car equals a car. Hey, kinda, yeah. What this is probably an array. I would rather you call it that, because if I'm gonna say something like int like my array, I would prefer not to call this a string of ints. I would prefer to call it an array of integers. All right. But in terms of what did I just type? In terms of characters, you could call it a string. Are we alive? Did we make it? Guys, that was our one hiccup for the day. We get one. We get one hiccup. And that was it. Now we're going to have a perfect rest of the stream. Put out the good energy, okay? Can never be smooth. Put out the good energy, okay? We're going to have a good rest of the stream. All right. So, kind of back to this concatenate thing. This is an operator. We're not that far in class yet, so instead I'm going to do something like this. Okay? We're going to do something like this instead. So it's going to take S and concatenate it with S. So that's how we're going to implement that today. So we're going to have a void, we're going to have a CS202 string concat function that takes another, let's say a constant CS202 string S. Mail says, that's how you do that. Could you be more specific? I guess I'm a little curious about that. And then I also want to do a void delete at. And we'll talk about these all today. Yeah. Well, as I said, with a string, it's going to be S plus S. That's how the CS202 string handles it. Not the CS202 string. The regular string class, it does S plus S. The regular string class does not have a concat function. But since we're not into the operators yet, this is how I'm going to do it. So no, concat is not an actual string function, but it will be for our class. Okay. So, these are all the things we're going to do. Let's get started, shall we? Let's get started. Kind of want to do maybe a CS void overwrite with, say, this. You guys can hear Patty back there. Patty's doing some stuff. All right, everybody. She hears her name. That's why she's coming to say hi. So let's get started today. You gotta get out of here. We're trying to learn. We're having a learning environment right now, Kat. Okay, so we're gonna start with the default constructor. So your question, am I doing assignment 4? The answer is no. I am just doing an example today. Well, if she comes back, I'll show the cat. Got to stay a little bit on topic today. So, this is the default constructor. What do you think the default constructor should do? Patty gave up on assignment 4. It was too hard for her. What does the default constructor do? What do you think? What in any way that you can think, what do you think it should do? Is it going to make a string? If so, what kind of string do you think it should be? What will its size be? What do you think? You have any ideas? You say allocate memory, perhaps. But for what is my question? I would say it makes an empty string. This is kind of what Chef said here, right? I'd say it makes an empty string. So if we have an empty string, we probably know that the length of the string is 0. We also, do we need to allocate any memory? Do we need to allocate any memory? Well, if the length of the string is 0, then I assure you, we don't need to allocate any memory at all. Okay, so let's stick with that, right? That'll be our default constructor. We're going to say, hey, nothing going on in here. Now, we're getting into the fun part, guys. Are you ready? We're getting into the fun part. We're getting into the fun part. We're going to do character. How much memory do I need to allocate for character? How much memory do I need to allocate for a character? I'm going to say, you know, our length is probably going to be 1. Right? And just if you're confused on this, we're going to make a string that holds, say, just C. 1 byte is correct. So here's kind of how I'm going to do this. First, I'm going to fix my errors because they bug me. Next, we're going to say, hey, our string is equal to new car 1. Now, at this point, you might be saying, what the heck? Why don't you just do this? Well, I'll tell you. I want this to be known as an array. This string I want to preserve the idea that it's an array. It will be used like an array. All right? So we're going to say, hey, allocate this to be length of 1. So then what's next if I want to put it inside? Why 1 and not indexed at 0? Well, Chef, this is going to be how big is our array. How big is the array? Let's kind of go find that. Let's see here. So here, we allocate an array of size 4 in this case. How big is the array? Well, it's got to be size 4. But then what are the valid indexes of that array? Well, we all know the answer to that. It's 0, it's 1, it's 2, and it's 3. So when we allocate it, we need to tell the operating system how much we want. And then when we're ready, we can say, hey, string located at 0 is equal to C. Or, if you want to be picky, right? I'm just showing you, string plus 0, right? I'm sure that's confusing. but it's the same thing. We're dereferencing. We're not adding anything to the address there, right? Does that answer your question, Chef? We need to tell how much we want. This is the size of our array. If you wanted to do it this way, I would much prefer it like that instead. And then we can index it there. Okay? While I'm thinking about it, let's get a void up here too. Void, just for now, let's do a void print string. And we'll get to that in just a moment. All right, so now we're gonna have some fun. This is the char array constructor. So what do you think we have to do here? I talked to you about how we know when to stop. So what's the very first thing you think we should do? Are there any ideas? I know this is all new to you. All right, I know it's all new to you. So perhaps you don't have much ideas, but let's see what we can come up with. Now, I need to know why it's angry at me. Perhaps it would prefer that I use the brackets. We'll see if that helps us at all. You should be, oh, I know why it's doing that. I'm sorry, folks. Let's see if we can fix it like that. All right, so that fixes that. And then can I still use my pointer? Please tell me I can. Okay. So Chef says find the length. Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. So Kate says size of. Size of will tell you the size of the type. Size of will not give you the size of the array, unfortunately. If you do this, if you say cout size of S, this prints the size of an address. This prints the size of the address, which is probably a byte, maybe a little more than that. So no, we can't use size of. And Giovanni says count the amount of characters, then allocate. Yes, yes, I love it. So let's do this. Let's say, hey, length is equal to 0. And I'll say while S at length does not equal null character. Length plus plus. What do you think about that? What does that do? Well, that says first it will look at the 0th character, and it says, hey, is this, let's say if it's like this, it'll look at the 0th character and it says, hey, this does equal that. So then the while loop will break out and length still remains 0. But let's say we put a P there. Now it will check the first one, S at length, which ends up being 0 at the start, right? So S at 0 happens to be P. And then so at plus plus, and then now the length of it is 1. So then we check at length 1, we get a null character. While loop breaks, we're at length 1. Are you guys okay with this implementation? Exactly. Increase the size until you hit the termination, the null terminated string. Yep, we're getting the length. We're getting the length of the string. We're getting the length of the string. Now, once we have the length, what's next? What's the next step? What do you think? We got to store it in the string, right? So what's the next step? What are we going to do next? Man, I'm so excited. We're learning about strings today. The most interesting subject in CS 202. What's next? Allocate an array. Let's allocate some memory. All right, let's do it. String is equal to new character size length. Guess I should spell it correctly. Right? Now, Giovanni, you are correct. Right? This will do it automatically for us. I say new char because it's a char. C++ says that's 1 byte times the length. So you are correct. But lucky for us, it will do that part for us. So lucky for us. So what's next? What's next? Now we call this. We got to get into some. Some facts here. All right. This is very important. We have something called the deep copy, and we have something called a shallow copy. Usually these are bad. So, tell me, folks, do you think this works? Let's just say we want to copy it over, right? So do you think this works? String is equal to S? What do you think? Is that okay, or did I do something wrong? Now, obviously, there's a little red thing there, but let's pretend like it's not there. Then that little red bit goes away. But is that okay? A yes or no? I'll even take yes or no. Some of you guys are probably a little interested. Kate says it will just give the address. Yeah. What did I make? What did I make here? What did I make? What is this called? We talked about this before. What did I make? 50-50, huh? This is an alias. What did I say? I also made a memory leak too. I did an alias and a memory leak. Yeah, Synthos, you're right. I did an alias and a memory leak. Why? Well, S was say 0x00A, and then we called new up here, right? We called new here. When new is called, it will give us something special, 0568B. Right? So string has that. And then what did I say? I said, hey, string equals S. So now string is equal to 0x00A. Meaning that now we have an alias. S contains it and string contains it. In addition to that, I overwrote this memory before it was returned to the operating system. I made a memory leak. Yep. I made a memory leak and I made an alias. So, that doesn't work. Now, what does this do? What does this do? What does that do? And does it work? Does it work? Does it partially work? Or does it not work? 1, 2, or 3, folks. Work. Partially work. Don't work at all. What do you think about that? Jeff says doesn't, not at all, huh? Not at all. You know, 1. We get some 1s. I see a 2 in there. All right. Turbo is the winner. It will partially work. It will partially work. What's the partial part of it? Can you tell me? What's the partial part of it? Does anyone know? This is our answer. 2. It partially works. But not completely. Does anyone know? What happens when I dereference this? This is the address of the array, right? And I dereference it. What does it give us? What's the equivalent? String is being dereferenced, right? But what happens when I dereference that address without any index? This is the equivalent of saying string 0. Yeah, yes, chef, yes, yes. Woo! We did it. This is the equivalent of saying string s is equal to 0, s0. Right? Because that's equal to, say, string plus 0 dereferenced is equal to the s plus 0 dereferenced, which is equal to just this. Does that make sense? So that partially works in that it will only copy the very first element. Are there any questions about that? This does not work. So guess what? This doesn't work. This partially works, but no, it doesn't work. So what's our next step? What is our next step? What do you think we need here? What kind of C++ thing? Yes, chef, yes. That's what we need. We need a for loop. For int I equals 0, I is less than the length of our string I++. We're going to say string at the ith element is equal to s at the ith element. Are you okay with that? Have we made ourselves clear, folks? Have we made ourselves clear? Okay. So, step 1, find the length. Step 2, allocate. Step 3, copy. Shall we test some stuff out? So Chef says, do we need to set one to null pointer after? Well, that's a great question. Let's talk about these things, deep copy and shallow copy. A deep copy allocates new memory and dereferences to make a copy. A shallow copy copies the address only, also known as an alias. So, Chef, you said, do we need to set one to null pointer after? Well, this happens to be a deep copy. Why is it a deep copy? Well, because we allocated new memory. So we actually didn't make an alias. So no, we don't have to set anything to null pointer at all. This original string will contain its original address. String has its own. We said, hey, operating system, this guy needs its own address. Please give it. And then guess what? We dereferenced it. Right? It allocates new memory and dereferences to make a copy. Well, what's these brackets? What are these brackets doing? They're dereferencing it. So this is not the same as like s equals string or whatever. That's the shallow copy. This is the shallow copy. This is the shallow copy. The deep copy is let me move it. Does that answer your question? Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Please let me know. So we're done. We are done. All right, folks, now we're going to move on here, but let's stop and test our code. That's always good. Let's make sure things are working, things are alive. So what I want to do is I kind of want to make this print string thing here. We'll get to this later. We'll do the destructor real quick, and we'll do a print string. All right, let's do our destructor. So, what do you think the destructor needs to do? What do you think the destructor should do? Any ideas? Any ideas at all? I'm going to add a little bit of a note here. We're going to deallocate the memory. Now, listen to this little note here. The delete with brackets can delete null pointers. Why? Because a null pointer is like size, it's an array of size 0. So when I say this, it's not actually deallocating anything. But it knows what to do. So in your assignment, I make you do all these checks, right? I make you do all these checks. You go, hey, if my string does not equal null pointer, call delete, right? Delete string. I made you do all those checks. I made you do all of those checks. Well, guess what? This is an array, and the runtime, the computer, C++, the compiler, whatever it is, it's gonna know that this is an array. So if I do this, I don't even have to do the check. And if I just do a delete brackets, it will work even with null pointer. Meaning we don't have to check it. And yes, if you would like to, you can do this. It's good practice. In this case, it's not really required, but it's good practice. It will never not hurt anything. Giovanni, just to kind of talk a little bit more about that, this is the end of the this is the end of the object's life. So the string is guaranteed to no longer be used. And so to set it to null pointer, really, there's no reason to, because this object will no longer be used at all. But if that's too hard to remember, always do this instead. It's just good practice. All right, does this make sense? This will delete things even with a null pointer. But we have to have the brackets. We have to have the brackets because it is an array, all right? Because it's an array. We allocated it with an array. For every new bracket, we need a delete bracket. For every new without brackets, we need to delete without brackets. Okay? So that's our destructor. All right? Deallocate that memory. Deallocate it. And, you know, if you're being picky, like I said, we really don't have to do it, but if you want to, it's fine. So that's our destructor. So now I'm going to do my quick little print function, just because I want to see if things are working. We'll go ahead and test with Valgrind too, and take some time here to ask some questions if you need, okay? Do I need to go back and talk about something? Please let me know. Okay, please let me know. Because we are kind of speeding along here, aren't we? Doing a little bit of a C++ speed run today. Now, this works. This works, right? Give me an idea. Does anyone know why that works? I already told you that this is not a string. This is a character array. So how do you think cout knows when to stop? I'm kind of asking a repeat question here, but how come you think this thing knows how to stop? Why does it know to stop? Cout. How does it know when to stop? I'll wait for the answer, and then I'll come up to these questions here. When it hits null character, yes. When it hits null character. So, while I'm answering Chef's question, for those of you who want to think about it, do you think this will work? Do you think that's enough? And Chef says, for delete, do you need a for loop to run through the array? The answer is no. And we'll maybe get to that a little later on, probably next week. But the reason we allocated this with brackets, and the operating system will remember how much memory it sent us. So if we indicate that we're sending it back and it was an array, the operating system will know how much of it to delete. So hopefully that answers your question. So no, this doesn't work. We need to dereference it. So you know what we do? Another for loop. The best C++ structure. Statement. The for loop. Okay. So let's test, shall we? Let's do some tests. Now, we haven't done the copy constructor yet. We did do a character constructor, and we did do this. So let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot, okay? This is going to be our, this is another param here. And let's just say, hey, S1, print string, S2, print string, S3, print string, S4. Sorry, folks. S4 print string. Okay, let's see how it works. And we're going to test it with Valgrind too to make sure we have no memory leaks. Anyone else used to despise for loops? Well, guess what, said those. You guys had a ton of fun with for loops in the last assignment, didn't you? Some of you are still having fun with them. As a programmer, you need to know how to use a for loop. And guess what? For loops are used for everything. If you have a 3-dimensional array, you're going to have 3 for loops. You just gotta be good with them. You just gotta be good with them. You have no other option. That's why I made you do that in the assignment. You going, man, why is Mr. P making us do this rotate function? This is terrible. Well, because I need to know that you know how to use for loops. You gotta know how to use for loops. For loops are the best. All right, folks, let's do a compile statement here. G++-std equals C++11, and we're going to do str.cpp. Oh, everything worked. Let's go to ./a.out. Oh my gosh, wow. Wow. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, don't do that, please. Are we still on screen? Yep, so the first one we printed was S1. It's an empty string, right? Nothing printed. Just an end line. And then we printed S2. S2 is Patty. Looks like it did well. And S4 is S. Looks like we did well. Now let's run it with a val grind here. Let's say, hey, did our destructor do its job? Please tell me, val grind. Did my destructor do its job? Oh, yes, it did. Yes, it did. All right. So, any questions so far? Let's see. Yeah, while loops are a little easier to control. But the for loop, nothing beats the for loop in my opinion. All right, so we're gonna hold off on the copy construct. Maybe we won't. Let's do a cheat. Let's do a cheat code, guys. What do you think? Let's do a cheat code. We're playing Star Wars Battlefront 2. Up, up, down, left, right. Let's do a cheat code. So, this is... What is this going to take? This is going to initialize a new string to be like the parameter. To be a deep copy of the parameter. Uchu, I'm old guy. I played the old one. Okay, so this is going to initialize a new string to be a deep copy of the parameter. All right. So if I wanted to, here's the quick way. Let's do the speed. Let's do the speed run. Okay. I can say length is equal to copy.length. And hey, let's do our special learn stuff. Right. This length equals copy.length if you want. Remember, this is not required. I'm just showing you that this length is different than this length, right? And then I'm going to probably say, hey, this, string equals new car length. And then I do the for loop. Int I equals 0, blah, blah, blah. Actually, we might have to... I'm not sure. I'm not sure, folks. I think we do have to do it this way. I wanted to do a cheat code, but I can't. I wanted to call this constructor here instead, but I can't do it. So we'll just do it the regular way. This is the exact same as the original one, okay? This is the exact same as the original one. Copy the length, allocate memory, make a deep copy. Say, hey, this string, right? And I'm just doing the this, right, to remind you that they're different. This string at I is equal to the copy at I. Are you okay with this constructor? It's pretty much the same thing, right? We're kind of typing a lot of similar code here, obviously. I wasn't able to do a cheat code, but it's the same thing. I could just copy-paste that code pretty much if I wanted to. Okay, that's our copy constructor. So if I wanted to test it, I would come up here and I would say, hey, CS202 string S3, make a copy of S2. So yeah, which CTOR does it copy? Let's see here. What I'm saying is that these two constructors are almost the same thing. They're almost identical. This one just takes the array. This one will access the array inside of the object. Now, why is it called a copy constructor? It's called a copy because we're making a copy of an object that has the same type. That's why it's called a copy constructor. A copy constructor is a constructor that takes an object of the same type and makes a deep copy of it. Does that answer your question? A copy constructor is a constructor that takes an object of the same type and makes a deep copy of it. So this constructor is taking an object of the same type. Now we're going to do the fun stuff. Prepare yourselves. If you're going to learn anything today, it's this. All right? Focus up, guys. If you have fallen asleep, wake up. It's time to pay attention to this one. So, what does this function do? Well, let's see. Concat will concatenate the parameter. Well, we'll take this. We'll concatenate this and the parameter to make a new string. Okay? Concatenate will concatenate this and the parameter to make a new string. So, I'm going to ask you a question here. Let's make some thoughts. Let's make some comments. So here we have Patty. This is one of my cats, and then I had another cat once named Loaf. So if I take Patty and Loaf, in fact, Loaf is the cat that's in my profile picture, if you ever cared interest. If I take Patty plus Loaf, I'm going to get Patty Loaf. It's like a discount burger, right? Instead of using buns, we're using loaves. Turbo, does this answer your question? That's what concatenate means. Concatenate. This is the definition of concatenate. Whoops. You take one string and you take a second string and you put them together. No, but one day I'll have a cat named Cheese. All right. So Patty plus Loaf equals Patty Loaf. Hopefully that answers your question. That is the concatenation. So what does that mean? Well, that means that this length is 5. That also means that the S length is 4. So do you think I could just do this? Do you think I could just take, I don't know, this string at 6 equals the S dot string at 0? Yeah, Giovanni is ahead of the pack here. Our new string must have a length this plus past string length. Yes. To start, this won't work because we need more memory. So we'll get into that later, right? It's always the length 5, so that's completely illegal. So you're right. It's going out of bounds, right? We have to allocate new memory. So what do? Car new string is equal to new character. Oh, what length are we talking about? Well, it's going to be this length plus that length. And then we got to do some for loops. It's time for some for loops. For int I equals 0, I is less than, well, we got to start with Patty here. All right? Let's start with Patty. What is that going to look like? Well, we're going to have probably this length, I plus plus. For I is less than 0, I is less than this length, meaning Patty. I++, we'll say new string located at I is equal to this string located at I. Okay? Once again, I'm repeating myself. This is not required. It's not, the this is not required. I'm just doing it for fun, just to show you what we're talking about. So this is the first half, right? Now we got to do the second half. First half is easy. Second half is no fun. Does anyone have any idea what this for loop should look like? Where will we start? What do you think? What do you think? Where will we start? Int I is equal to question mark. I is less than question mark. I++. Have we learned anything? For I equals this length. Yes, yes. Nice job. Okay. I is less than what? I is less than what? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? New string located at I. Yeah. That's going to be equal to the S, the copy, right? Or the parameter located somewhere. There's something in here too. I is less than length plus S length. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. In fact, let's do something. Yeah, let's do this. This is too complicated for my eyeballs. All right, let's do it this way. Okay. What goes in here? What goes in there? What goes in there? All right, so think about it this way. We are at P, A, T, T, Y, and then we've got empty, 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 empty. All right, and so we're going to say, hey, this one, right, that one is going to be located at 5. That one's going to be located at 5. Here it is, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cool Turtle says I. So that's my question to you. Does that work? Think about what loaf looks like. What does loaf look like? Loaf is indexed at what? 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I say loaf at 5, I'm out here. What's that? That's nothing, right? I minus the length. Yep. I minus the length. I minus this length. So you want to see how that works? Let's go one by one. We're going to start at 5, right? We're starting at 5. So we say new string at 5 is equal to loaf at 5 minus 5, 0. It's equal to L. Then we go up. I is now equal to 6. New string at 6 is equal to the loaf at 6 minus 5, which is 1. O. And then A, and then F. Does this make sense? Does it make sense? I think it does. Okay. And now we're going to make a new string. CS202 string, return string, my return string dot string is equal to the new string. Let's avoid an alias. So the new string now equals null pointer. And then we want the return string dot length is equal to the new length. And then we will return the return string. Aren't for loops amazing? Yeah. For loops are amazing. For loops are amazing. Okay. So what did I do? I made a new string. I made a, this is kind of an alias, right? This is kind of an alias, but then I fixed it. And then I copied the length. I can't spell. And then we returned it. You want to test it out? Let's test it. Let's test it out, shall we? Let's test it out. Now let's check your knowledge. You ready for some knowledge? Knowledge. Let's test some knowledge. CS202 string. New string. And we're going to take S1, S2.concat, S1, or S3, sorry. Tell me, what constructor does that call? What constructor is called here? What constructor is called? What CTOR? What CTOR gets called there? What do you think? What is the CTOR? The copy CTOR. Yes, it does. How do you know? Well, what does concat return? Let's go look. Concatenation. What does it return? It returns a CS202 string. So what does this become? This becomes a CS202 string. And then, what constructor do we call? The one that takes the CS202 string. The copy constructor. Calls the copy constructor. Okay? Let's see how well we did, folks. And then we're going to have to speed run a function here. We're going to have to speed run. We've been doing it all class. But you guys are keeping up, I think. All right, I haven't lost you too much. Well, we'll see later. When assignment 5 comes around, right? Oh, yeah, it did work. All right, so val grind's all good. If we just do the regular, sorry. Can't really read that. Patty loaf. Patty loaf. We did it. Ta-da. That's amazing. All right, guys. Now. Yeah, chat's a little delayed. We had our hiccup. Now we're going to do the last one real quick. All right? We can do it. Overwrite we'll get to next time. But we're going to do a delete at here. Ooh, the delete at. The delete at. What does this function do? Well, this one's going to do something fancy. Looks like it's already there. What does this function do? Well, I'm going to delete a character at an index. Okay, this is going to delete character at index I. We're going to delete character at index I, right? So if I say, just as an example, if I say Patty dot delete at 2, we're going to end up with P-A-T-Y. All right, we got 5 minutes, so let's get started. We're doing a delete, which means the array will be a size less. The array will be a size less. Now, we could just subtract the length and be okay with it, but we're not going to do that. We are going to request new memory. All right, so I'm going to let you think on this one. We're going to request new memory. Step 1, we're going to allocate a new array, size -1. Step 2, deep copy. Step 3, delete old array. Step 4, assign new array to string. Yep, Chef, you're right. So, here we go. The first thing I'm going to do, step 1, allocate a new array of length -1. Character, my new array, is equal to new character length -1. Step 2, let's make a deep copy. Let's do a first half and a second half. All right, you could do some logic. You could use some if statements here. I'm not one of these people that does that, though. I'm just going to do 2 for loops. What's the first for loop go to? What's the second for loop go to? Let's start with the first one. Let's start with the first one. What's the first for loop go to? Right. Okay, so Chef says you would have a normal for loop with an if statement for I does not equal 2. I'm okay with that. Yeah, you're right. But I'm going to do this first half, second half thing. Not in this case. Well, oh yeah, you're right. You are correct. All right. We only got 2 minutes left here. I'm sure you guys have given up on me, so I will give it to you. For j equals 0, j is less than the index, j++. The new array at j is equal to the old array at j. The second half, j equals what? Well, we're going to start at I, the new index, and j is less than length minus 1. And we're going to say the new array at j is equal to the string at j plus 1. And then the next step, we have to delete the old array, string, and then we have to say that this is equal to the new array. Then we'll avoid our alias by saying new array equals null pointer, and then we'll say the length is equal to length minus 1, length minus minus, I guess, and then we're done. All right, and I'm out of time. So I did speed run that. I'm a little bit sorry. Just quick review. Step 1, allocate a new array of length minus 1. Step 2, do a deep copy. The first half, the second half. Then delete your old array. Assign a new array to the string. Avoid an alias. Then we subtract the length. Let's test our function, and then I'll let you go home. Some of you are probably already home. Dot delete at index 5, something like that. Now there's some issues here with. Well, I'll get in that later. We've run out of time. We've run out of time. I guess I should call print string. Are there any questions before we end class today? Are you guys okay? Did you guys slightly follow what happened today? Looks like it worked. All right, folks. Let me know. I've got some office hours, people. Yeah, your brain's gonna need to think about it. All right. I'll give you some examples. I'll give you some test questions. So you're gonna need to study a little bit, but yeah. What's line 146? Oh, this one. You'll need to think about that one. All right, guys. Have a great day. Like I said, I've got a few people on office hours already, but I'll do my best to help you when I can. Send me messages. Next class, we'll come back to this a little bit. Next Thursday is a test. Just look out for review and stuff. Synthos, we'll review next time. Cade, you're welcome. Thanks for coming to class today, Young. You are welcome. Waffle, you're welcome. Synthos, you are welcome. Uchu, you're welcome. Kane, you are welcome. Have a great day. Top Wolf, you are welcome. Oyman, you're welcome. Turbo, you are welcome. YCS, you are welcome. Giovanni, you are welcome. I will do it. Man, Giovanni beat you today, Fuzzy. What's going on? Chef, you are welcome. Brandon, you are welcome. Have a great day, guys. Nick, you have a good one too, my friend. Have a great day. All right.